That's bearing. Turn that one.
Take these two bolts off right here.
So we're going to change the bearing, as you heard, the seal, because the seal's leaking and then going back on the bearing, and that's why you hear the bearing like that. So we're going to take this all apart, and it's the Executive 56 pump. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take off all these screws at the front of the wet head. After you get the screws off, you get a slotted screwdriver, small one. Get in between there and just bang the other end. You just turn it, get the screwdriver in there and go around and turn it. Just remember how you put everything back together, how it sits. This discharge is on the side. And there's only one way these things go back on anyway. And for the air hose, it's at the front, top. Remember how this goes on if you have one. Sometimes they're missing, you don't need it sometimes. So it fits right in there like that. So we're going to take this impeller off. So what we're going to do is, first we're going to try, the first thing you're going to try anyway, is on the back here there's a little cover for the shaft. Right there. And you can put it on after when you're done. Just protects the bearing that's in the back here, protects it from getting wet, moisture in there. But right for today, like most pumps, it's going to be the front bearing. So it's going to be the front here. The back, very rare, very, very rare that you're going to replace this back. So we're just going to replace the front. Okay, the first thing we're going to try is get a bigger slotted screwdriver. And you can fit, there's a little slot in the back where the shaft is. You get it on there. And see if you can undo it counterclockwise for the impeller. So most of the time you can't undo it, or you use a tool. So your next option would be is you take off 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. Now I would suggest if you're going to use a drill, be very careful, because this is a long bolt that screws into here, and if it's been leaking for a while, older pump, you can twist this and they break off inside over here. So just go really slow. You can probably feel it. Okay, don't pull these pins out all the way. Just pull out a little bit so we can remove. And use a hammer or something, bang behind it. So get in the slot. Then bang it. Slide this out. On the end there, you always clean that off and put grease on it again. But there's a compression little ring there. So where it sits in the back of this pump, make sure it's still there. Yeah, for this one here, the compression ring fell. Now I've had them where I totally gapped it and started it on and it was touching the steel and there was smoke everywhere, and you don't want that to happen. So you got to make sure that ring, you get that ring. So I can see it in the back here on the bottom. It's hard to shake it out because it's full of grease. That. I'll show you how to put this back on. But most of the time it's inside here on the back, inside there. And so when you put everything all back together, it's like a compression ring. So it holds the bearing in there and kind of compresses it back and forth. So sometimes it sticks to the bottom, or sometimes it sticks to the bearing and it comes out. A lot of times it drops out. Sometimes it stays there. So make sure this is in here or it's out, not falling down. So what we're going to do is grab a hold of this, then we're going to turn this. So we're going to try something different. Because this is metal, can kind of hold it there when that turns. So when I turn this, it should give us a little bit of leverage. But it broke. Shaft broke off too. So we're gonna get put a new impeller in there. Now if you're looking for a new impeller on this, this is a 4 horsepower, and I'll link it down below for the 56, 4 horsepower. I'll put down to the 3, the 4, and the 5. So once you get all apart, make sure you clean up everything, all the shaft, the thread, clean up everything. Bang it. It's right there. And you clean up all inside there. So we're going to do change the seal right now. So we need a new one. If your shaft never broke, then you just pop this off here. This rubber here, you want to try to get that soft without breaking the shaft. So what I do is I put it in hot water, like boiling it for like pasta. Just stick that in there so it gets really soft, and then you can pry that out, wiggle it all the way out. But we're gonna put a new one in. There's my impeller right there. So to put this in, what I do, if you ever seen any of my other videos, I always put a bead, a little tiny bead all the way around. Get on there. Then I use the screwdriver. You can feel it, it's sitting up high. You gotta wedge it in there. So I just bang it down. Go on one side, go on the other, just teeter-totter it back in there. And you can feel that it's solid. Yeah, it's squeezed out, it's good. So that's it for this end, for the wet end. So we just need one for the impeller. So sometimes it's hard to get it in there. So I'm just gonna, the same silicone. It's not really to seal it off, it's just to make it a little bit greasy. I can slide on there a little bit better. Plus when it sets up, it's gonna keep it in there good. It's not gonna come out anyway, but easy way to push it in there. So without the silicone, try pushing with your hand. It's a little tough. And that's it for your seal. And then you just put everything all back together. Just remember how you put it all back. So the steps I showed you to take it off, you just reverse it and then put it all back together. Next we're going to work on taking the front bearing out. So on the Executive 56, there's going to be a screw right here. You have to try to take that off. Well, you just undo it. There's a little pin in the back. I don't know if you can really see it, but once you turn that, it comes and pulls out of the way. It holds this against the bearing. So don't take it out all the way. We want that because it's hard to put back if it comes out all the way. So there's a little, see right there. So you move it out of the way, and you gotta be careful because there's a rounded part and there's a flat part. So you turn it in a way that when this comes off, it's not catching, because that will start bending. So you just gotta make sure it's out of the way from that bearing. And then for this, depends on how you're gonna take it off. Now sometimes I'll put it, like I'll put a piece of wood here and a piece of wood here, just off the ground a bit, and I'll bang the shaft with a piece of wood. Put a piece of wood here and bang the shaft. But a lot of times I always nick this up and then I gotta redo the thread. So first thing I try right away is I just try to bang it off. You don't have to bang hard. gotta make sure, yeah, it's catching there, so you gotta turn it. Now, sometimes these are really hard to take off. And inside here, you clean all that crap out. And you can see by that pin, if it's like that, then you can't, and it turns. It's out of the way. Okay, we're gonna pull that bearing. And I'll link the bearing down below that you can use for this one here. Just gotta get everything go center. And the shaft here has a little tiny hole in there, so it's kind of, this one here is perfect for it. Because on the puller it has a little pin, so when you turn it stays. So you're gonna try to level everything and make it go straight. Okay. Try to get as straight as you can. Okay. So what I do is I just use a socket for this side. Get some kind of adjustable wrench. You don't have to get this one here. You just have to get a adjustable, like a small adjustable would fit in there. But I just use this because I do it so many times. Is just in case it's hard to come off, this won't spin while you're trying to turn this. It holds it. So this will turn and it's kind of hard to hold it. So it helps it stay in place. Now at the start here, you could try, because it has a little hole in here, you try a screwdriver and it's clockwise. Because sometimes it's not too bad. You don't have to use a wrench because it slides right out. Okay, so we just take that off because the bolts are getting in the way right there. Say you didn't have the Executive 56, but you're watching this video anyway. If you're looking for a bearing, there's marks right on it. There's little, sometimes they don't. This one I don't think so. We have a video on how to measure a bearing if you're not sure. So I got the new bearing right there. So we're gonna have to bang that down. So what I use is a socket big enough and long enough that it's gonna avoid this. It's not gonna wreck the threads. And long enough that when I'm banging it in there, that this end doesn't come out and I end up banging this side. Use this socket here, and you got to make it where it's close. You want to bang the inside of this part here. Now, if you have a pipe or something, you can put a long pipe that's gonna bang on this part here, the inner ring. Not, you don't want to sitting out here, because you'll just crush it right in. I do it all the time. So you just want to bang the end of that, and it just seats right in there. That's it for the new bearing. So we just reverse everything. There's a gap right in there. There's a gap right in there, and I'm gonna put some grease in there, just a little bit. And I'll link everything down below. I just like get some grease in there. This helps with moisture. So I'm just going to use that same socket, so it sits it in there. There we go. Then that screw, we're going to put that back on. And it doesn't have to be tight, it's just snug. Okay. On the other end, we're going to put some grease on there, and we're going to put, I'll show you how to put that ring on there. If it's fallen out, you'd follow this along. So I'm going to put grease on the end. Just on the end. Just going to set that on there. Grease all over it. Should stick to it. And once you got that ring on there, slide this, be very careful. Now if you want, I'm pretty confident with my grease it's going to stick there. And I'll link some grease down below. The stuff I have here, you can't buy it online. But as long as it's sticky like that, you can always look in the back while you're pushing this in. So when it sits in there, you know the ring's not going to fall out. Okay, and make sure it's all lined up. That's why I said don't push the pins out. So everything will be all lined up. Once you get the wet head on here and screwed on, it'll start pulling it all in. But just make sure that nothing's stuck in there. So hopefully you remember everything, how it goes back together. So what I suggest is when you put the screws on in the back here, I always suggest doing it by hand just to catch it. Or if not by hand, if you can't do it by hand, like this one here, I'm having a hard time, use the drill just to catch it all the way around. Just get all of them just to catch it on here. So you're going to have to move it around a bit. But don't tighten it with this. Use a driver or something like that, but don't tighten it with this because you'll break it. But if you want to do it, go ahead. So you just want to catch it, each one. Once you know you caught it, go to the next one. See, I like doing it by hand at the end. I don't try to tighten it too much with the drill. Just because I can feel it. See, I couldn't feel that with the drill. So you just want to just snug. That one's snug. So we'll get the impeller back on. Because it's brand new, we can use that big screwdriver in the back. Right in the back. There's a little slot. Just screw it in by hand. Don't use a tool on this, just by hand. There you go. So give it a good tweak. Remember the little hat thing? Put that back on. Remember this? Now, I would suggest to put a bead of silicone right here. Clean all this off. Put some grease on there all around that O-ring. And then if it looks like it's been leaking or it's old, just put a little bead. Just put a bead all the way around. So then when you put it on, it crushes it right in. It's that little extra little something besides the O-ring. Seals it pretty good. So just remember how it goes back. Take pictures, take pictures. Then you put the screws back on. Make sure before you start screwing this on, even with the drill or by hand, again, use a drill to put it in, but don't tighten it with the drill. Use by hand, use a screwdriver. Make sure it's in all the way around. Sometimes you'll see a gap. Sometimes you might have to put a screw in one side and go the opposite side, kind of just put it in a little bit so it rockers in a bit. Because if you go one side, you could break one of these off on the opposite side. This is too far away. Some of them sit in there tight. This one went in by hand, which is rare. And you just screw all these back in, and then you're good to go. Make sure that you can move this freely. Everything's all good. Yep, just remember everything. The back piece here. Put that on. Now, if this video helped you out, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to us, and we'll see you on the next one.